Hi, folks. It's Dr. Christine Sauer with Christy Boyd Johnson on today's episode of Your Quality of Life Healthy Alternatives. And what could be a better healthy alternative? There's my book here that I wanted to show off, than writing story, like the stories in this book that we are both co-authors in. And if you haven't checked it out, it is a multiple Amazon bestseller, international bestseller. And Christy's story is fun and easy to read. And mine is not bad either. And the other stories, I think it has 29 stories of amazing, inspirational ladies that overcame challenges and became invincible after being invisible. Welcome, Christy, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here today.
Me too. Now, you're a transformational book coach who helps new authors discover their inner genius and heal through writing. What a wonderful purpose. And you have ghostwritten more than 30 nonfiction books for entrepreneurs, writers, children's fiction. You hold an MFA, whatever that means, in professional screenwriting, and you are now on a journey of leading healing writers retreats. Wow, healing through writing. I like it. Tell me a little bit about your journey.
Well, my journey, of course, my life journey has been one of a lot more downs than ups at the beginning. We had, I we had my father was not a very kind person. He was pretty abusive, and we grew up in that environment. And I went on to then marry, as so many women do. I married my father, and that was even worse. But I got out of that, and actually it was writing my own story that got me out of that marriage, because I started writing for myself, just journaling, like I've got to start thinking more clearly than the haze of lies that I was being fed constantly. And that process, it took me about a year, and then I just left, and I got out, and I've never looked back. And then I kept writing, and then I was teaching school at that time, and I started making up stories for the kids, and they started to beg me for my stories, like, Miss J, tell us one of your stories. And they didn't want me to read a book for them. Usually kids love it when you pull a book off the shelf and read it. And they were like, tell us a story, tell us a story. So I thought maybe I should learn how to write children's books, because the kids really like it. So I learned how to do that. And I have to tell you, of all the different things you can write, children's books are deceptively easy and the hardest thing to do, because you have to sometimes you take very complex ideas, but you have to be careful about your languaging and the way you tell the story and the characters, and et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot to it. So I had a lot of fun doing that. And the first children's book I wrote, which I'm going to re-release very soon, it's called Doofus. Doofus. It's actually took me on the second level of my healing journey, which was I tackled a full-on not a fiction book project, and that was doing that was such a revelation for me, because I got into the zone, and anybody who's ever been in the zone will tell you there is nothing better. I was up in the middle of the night. I was either on my computer or writing notes or taping in my on my phone, my recorder, so that I didn't forget all the things that were flooding in. It was great fun. I had such fun. And then that's when I knew. And then I gave it to a teacher friend of mine to have his class do. I gave manuscripts to the kids, and they all went crazy for it. And I thought, okay, I'm on to something here. But I also needed to supplement my teaching. So I would ghostwrite books in the summer. And that's how I started writing nonfiction. Nonfiction is much, much easier to write than fiction.
Really?
Yes, yes. And so I kind of supplemented. That's how I got up to, 30 books. And I would write during holidays. Sometimes I wrote a couple during the over Christmas breaks, and et cetera.
What is
And
your favorite topic for ghostwriting? I won't ask you about the title because that would be confidential, I assume,
yes,
but
yes.
the topic.
My favorite topic is anything having to do with spiritual growth and that inner healing work that we do. Yes, I've only done a couple of those, but they were amazing. The authors were amazing. The healing process and the 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 symbiosis that happens between the author and the ghostwriter. I like their perspective, and then we would talk and we would elevate and we would decide how we wanted to put it in the books. And it was just this amazing experience. And when we did this book, the writers were coming back to me after I ghost wrote their chapters and say, one came back to me in tears, absolutely in tears. She said, I can't believe you wrote my story like that. I never thought I could do this, and just in tears. And I think that was one of the best gifts I've ever gotten, that not only is it the telling of the story, but putting it on paper for other people to see opens up a door of healing that you just can't even imagine what could happen from it.
Wow.
And
we'll get back to that, but first I want to know, why story? What's so special about a story? Why not just tell history?
It's the emotion. It's the emotion. I admit this, I'm still struggling with being vulnerable enough to show the emotion. I've worked so hard to heal myself that I think I'm past a lot of the emotional part of being abused as a child and marrying a bad person. It's so far in my past that I think I'm somewhat past it. But what really got to me was telling the story of how you have to open up to write, how you have to open up to write, whether it's ghosting for someone else or you're writing your own story. You have to dig deep in here. And when you start digging into here, especially here,
I agree.
things come up. But I believe that when emotions start coming up, even if they're negative, that's a sign that you're healing, because we can't avoid our feelings. We have to experience them. I cried. When I wrote my first book, Doofus, I had a cat that had been with me when I fled from my marriage. And it was just me and the cat for a while. And she passed away while I was writing that book. And that brought up more for me than anything else. So I wrote her in as a character.
Oh,
that was part of my healing.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. And it opened another door for me. And I wrote a lot of the villain is a lot of my ex-husband. I can laugh now. At the time during the writing process, I laughed a lot and I cried a lot. And there was a lot of purging that happened. And but when you come out of the other side, you're forever changed, and it's always for the better. And it's like it's like you've reached a new level, and then you can kind of relax for a while, and then you start going to the next level. And
there's always another level. And one of my favorite books of all times is Marshall Goldsmith, Take It to the Next Level, an amazing book. So books, yes, books are important. And I think the human brain tends to think in stories.
Yes, stories that go back to ancient people, with families telling their stories to the children. I mean, I'm Norwegian, and my family, the trolls are a big deal in the Norwegian culture, but I've been to Norway and I can see that there are these little villages surrounded by these dense forests. And I can imagine parents telling them, don't you wander into the trees. The trolls will get you and eat you, because if the kids wandered into the trees, they'd be gone. I can see that, how that could be, and how things can evolve from there.
It's really interesting, the different stories that people tell, and how different people and cultures tell different stories. I remember when my kids were small, I told them good night stories, but not the usual one, because being a physician, I talked about stories of little kids that ran across the street and got hit by a car, and what happened to those kids. And I left them actually the choice what happened to the kids. They could choose, do they go to the hospital or do they die? So it was quite interesting. They loved it. They wanted just those stories. So it was fascinating. And really it's about stories that we can identify with. And the stories that you're talking about, the healing stories, the stories of people that went through challenges like we did and came out the other side as growth and better people, they are inspirational for others to go their own way and become better people.
Absolutely. And
I think you, as a good storytelling or book coaching, coach, transform, whatever you call it, you help people tell their story in a way that it inspires other people.
Yes,
that's for the manuscript. I wrote my story myself. Maybe that's why it's not that perfect, but it's
never perfect. It's never perfect.
It's always perfect when it doesn't. But you're right. It is a big step to tell your story for the first time and open up about how you got hurt and what that journey took you through. And hopefully at the other end, you came out.
Yes, that's why I wanted to be a book coach, because even with ghostwriting, it's kind of me. They tell me the story and I go and I put it together for them. But with book coaching, they bring their story and I help them find their own voice and bring that healing up in them. And then their process of writing the story, the author's process, it becomes their journey instead of just having me write it down for them.
And that is really amazing, because I talk to depressed people mostly, and they're still down in the dumps. So they need that healing journey to be inspired, to have the force and the power and the energy to actually go the way and not get stuck in the rut and stay there, which is always a temptation, because you have benefits when you're a victim.
Oh,
but
yes.
When you're grown up and are out of it, you lose financial benefits. You don't anymore get pitied by others. And you lose a lot of things, but you gain so much. And at the time when you're down in the rut, maybe you don't see it clearly. So telling your story and learning from others that overcame challenging situations. And most of us, I always say everybody over 15 has a story to tell.
Absolutely.
And it's very true. And it's such a privilege. And you know that to listen to people's stories. So tell me, how can our listeners that listen to this show, how can they start to hear right now?
Oh, the worst thing that you can do is start writing for publication at the beginning. The best thing you can do for yourself is start journaling. And the reason for that is because I use a simple spiral notebook that you can buy for, 50 cents at the store, especially during back to school, and nobody sees it but me. It is mine. And so the fact that no one is going to ever see this but me frees that spirit. You can write anything down you want. You can, if your mind is chattering and you're like, oh, I got all these errands to do, write them down. And then that gets that past that, and you can go to something deeper. Or if you had a nightmare, write it down and dig into it. Anything. It doesn't even matter what it is.
Well, the problem is, I know for myself, I started at 11 writing a journal. And then I found out that my mother found it and started reading it.
Uh-oh.
So I started learning shorthand. I continued in shorthand. Now I can't read it anymore today. But later on, I continued writing in my first marriage. Then I found out my ex-husband started reading my journal. So sadly, I threw a lot of it away because I was scared.
Yes.
So how do you keep your journal safe from those intruders if you don't want anybody else to read it, especially husbands that maybe not your best friend?
Yeah, husbands that aren't your best friend are a problem. That is true. That is true.
Or mothers.
Yeah,
Mostly mothers.
yes, nosy mothers. I would keep things in my car because I'm the only one who has a key to my car. I didn't share my key. I would literally just slide it under the seat, keep it in there, and my car was locked, and I was the only one who had a key. That's one thing. Another thing is if you do happen to have a nosy husband, but there is communication available, you can say, look, this is my private journal. I'm not writing anything bad or anything. It's just for me, and I need you to respect my privacy. That may or may not work. Hopefully, in an ideal world, we're married to a spouse that honors that.
Respect that, ideally, yeah.
Ideally,
I think a lot of our listeners probably won't.
Yeah. But a secret hiding place that is not, I mean, obviously it's not your underwear drawer or.
And I think there's journals that you can actually lock with a key.
Yes, but those, if you're married to someone who is like my ex-husband, that wouldn't have stopped him. He would have just ripped it open. So
there's an online option, but it's a different thing to write by hand or to type.
Yeah, you want to write by hand. There's something about the brain. It's a neurological thing, the brain-hand connection. It's different. It's completely different.
It is very different. So
yes.
Try it.
And another thing is if you have a job, keep it locked. Like I had a desk in my teaching job, my desk locked.
Good idea.
So when I was at work, I mean, kids will look at your stuff all the time, but they won't break into your desk if it's locked. So I just kept it in my desk, locked in the drawer where I kept my purse during the day. And
that's a good idea, yeah.
Yeah. So if you have a job with a locking desk or a file cabinet or something, you can do that to keep it away from nosy.
Idea. And just a tip from an old woman: if you have a husband that does not respect your right to have a private journal, maybe it's time to think about the relationship.
Yes, that goes for men with women with wives like that too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Now, you talked about how writing helped you personally heal. And I love it because it's so important to talk about your story. And we were about how our listeners can heal. So start journaling for you privately. What's the next step?
The next step, well, if you're on a healing journey, there could be any number of things you'll discover with that journey, with that journal. You might discover that you just need to get it out, and then you feel better. And you can start taking action steps to better your life. Small baby steps. If you take one baby step every day, you'll be surprised where you are at the end of the month. Instead of trying to think in terms of big leaps forward, it's too hard and it's too overwhelming and it's too scary. When I was getting ready, it took me a year to get ready to finally actually leave my husband. I was afraid of him. I spent a lot of my time locked in the bathroom, and I was afraid of him, and I didn't know what he might do. And I had to, it kind of evolved as I went through my journal that this was not okay. Living like this was not good. I was depressed. I was miserable. I was everything, and the lies. I started going, this is not who I am, and I'm not going to live this way anymore. And I got to a point where for me, what happened is I got to a point where I didn't care if I had to live on the street. I was getting out, and that was it. And when I faced that situation, it happened fast, and I was gone. And I was euphoric for a year. Nothing could touch me. I was so happy. I just went to work and came home, and I was just really doing my inner work. But I was so happy. I'd go out with my friends. We'd go out dancing or to dinner. We were, I didn't care what we did. I didn't care if I was just taking a walk around the block. I was so happy. And it was kind of a pendulum swing from the misery.
Happens.
I lost 50 pounds. And I always say I lost 250 pounds. And then I lost 50 pounds more.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
First you lost yourself and
Got rid of him. And
the
then
250 pounds yourself back and lost 50. That's a good
yeah,
one. Like
right. Just melted right off. I was so happy. And it was just, I felt free. And so for a while nothing could touch me. I was just like, yeah, let's, so that was really nice. And then, you start to normalize emotionally. And oh, I should mention, for me, it might have been a little bit easier because I didn't have children with him. So if I'd had children with him, I know it would have been a lot harder for me because I would have had to get
you married to that man.
I was legally married to him for 8 years, but the last year of that was me figuring out how to get out of there.
Yeah, so. Still probably a very hard time in your life, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. It's terrible I realized that I would come home from work and I'd be screaming at traffic and yelling at people and when I'd go to work in the morning, I was like, la, 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 la. And when I was coming home, I was screaming. And I thought, why am I screaming when I'm coming home from work? So that I started kind of connecting like these unconscious behaviors that were coming out in me that were sort of trying to show me, you don't want to go home. You need some, if I went anywhere else after work, like if I went to my mom's house, I was happy. But if I was going home, I was screaming. And I thought, okay, so this is not my natural personality. You can probably tell just from this that I'm pretty happy. I'm not a stressful person. And that was one of the things. And of course
that's a sign when in a relationship you can't be yourself and you're stressed out just by going back home. It's a sign something's wrong.
Yeah.
Seriously wrong. And good for you to get out of there. Now to continue that with our listeners. Say they are starting to write journal. They decided to get out of whatever abusive or bad situation they are in, then a better place. What can they do from then? Because we are still not having written a book.
No, everyone is going to be different. And depending on what they need, they might need help from someone like you. And if you need help, go get it. Go get it. Do not deprive yourself of asking for help, because what we do when we're being abused in any way is we shut down and inward, and we become ashamed, like it's our fault.
Yeah.
And that was me. And when I finally came out of it and I started asking for help, I got help.
Yeah.
My friends rallied around me, my family rallied around me. And I hope that happens for everybody. I know that it's not realistic to think everybody would have that, but you can find help. There's always help.
Yeah, there's always help around, but it's a sign of courage to be able to ask for help. It's not a sign of weakness. And absolutely. I know for me, it was the hardest thing that I ever done in my life to ask for help.
Yes.
For some people it may be, but if you are there and listening, do it right now. Ask a friend, good friend, ask a counselor, teacher, doctor if you need to. Contact one of us. We are here for you.
Absolutely. Okay. It is a sign of courage, because it is the hardest thing to do. But it also opens the door. It's amazing how the shame kind of just goes away the second that someone responds to you and you go, it's not my fault.
I'm not the only one that has those struggles.
Yes. Oh, what a relief.
Ooh, others went through it before me and they got better.
Yes.
I'm not hopeless. What a relief.
What a relief. I always tell people, you can't avoid it and you can't hide from it. The only way to get to the other side is to walk through it. And if that means you have to feel pain for a while, it's worth it, because the other side feels so much better. And there's light and hope and friends there.
I love country music, and I love that country song, when you're going through hell, just keep going.
Just keep
It's
going.
true.
Yeah.
Because if you're not keeping going, you burn up. So keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And don't look back.
Yeah.
No.
So at that end of the journey, when they're looking up, getting hope, many of them will start, well, I wrote that journal. I see other people shared their story. And maybe that's for me. What can they do?
Well, now, you know, the people that we did this book with are doing more books. That's an easy way because it's a 1,500 word chapter as opposed to an entire book. And it's an easier beginning if you want to share your story. There are ways, there are blogs, there are lots and lots of blogs if you need it to be, usually these are paid, but blogs, there are lots of bloggers out there who are doing healing work with people and they want your stories. There are people like you doing podcasts and they want your stories and they're looking for people with stories. There's all kinds of ways to do that if you're inclined to do that. Sometimes people aren't. Sometimes people they're more private and they don't want to share their story, but you can always keep journaling. You can always, if you're working with a therapist or a counselor or a teacher or anybody,
Yeah.
yes. And if you sometimes people will find there's a book in them and that they do have a book. You know, the author of, I can't remember her name, but she wrote Codependent No More.
Yes, good
Yes.
book.
And an excellent book, and it's very genuine, and her story is powerful. And codependence is a big deal. Because we are codependent in ways we don't even know we're being codependent. Sometimes we have to we get to a new level, and it's like, oh,
Really, codependency is a continuum.
yeah.
There's a healthy way to be codependent in a relationship, but there's a definitely unhealthy level. And
Definitely.
for anybody that's interesting, I put the link to the book underneath. It's a good book.
That's a good book. And that came out of her personal journey. And it's very well done. I think she did work with a very good editor because you can always tell.
She may have worked with a book coach, didn't she?
Yes. Because yes, don't ever, if you're going to do a book, you must work with some kind of an editor, whether it's a book coach or a developmental editor. Developmental editors are help you put your story together. They develop your story in a way that reads well, because reading is different than hearing. When someone's telling you their story, it sounds different than if you're reading it.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So many people, when they write that down, they say, I really doubt that I'm smart enough to put that in a way that it will make a book. Or I doubt I'm not a genius. How can I ever be an author, and let alone a best-selling author? So what do you say to those people?
I say that that's your high school English grammar teacher talking. And you should just say, go away. And it's not, because you know what? The number one absolute most important thing about writing a book is authenticity. If you are writing a story about your personal journey, your authentic voice is more important than anything else. Anything else can be fixed. Spelling can be fixed. Punctuation can be fixed. All the grammatical stuff can be fixed. All that can be fixed. But what is unique to you is your own voice. And if you decide to take a book on, you will be finding your voice. And you may go through some, internal drama with it, but it's the kind of healing. You know how if you had surgery, after it's over and you're feeling better, there's healing pain, but it's got an end in sight because you're getting better now. That's what it is. It's like that healing pain, and you're just kind of almost reveling in it because it's the other side.
Right, it gets you to the other side, and that's amazing. Yes. So if somebody feels they have a book in them, they have a story that they want to tell, but they need some help to get it out of them and put it in a form that others may want to read, how can they contact you?
Very easy. My email is Kristy, which is Kristy at starseedjourneyretreats.com. You can contact me directly, or if you want, you can come to one of our writing retreats. We're in the process of setting up a whole bunch of small virtual writing retreats that are very affordable. And we're going to shoot for a live one coming up here at the end of June in Sedona. Beautiful Sedona.
For those that don't know where Sedona is, in California?
No, it's in Arizona.
In Arizona, where it's warm.
Yes. And June should be just about the right timing, not too hot, not too cold, right in that sweet spot.
Yeah, that sounds really appealing.
Yes. And we're going to do in the course of this, I realized that book coaching, I love it. I love working with a new author. I love it. I love seeing them come to life. I love seeing it come together. And then when they get to the publishing, I have publishers I work with, so I have, just funnel you right into the publishing too. But what is the most beautiful thing is watching what happens to them as they're bringing it out of them onto the page. It's something that's kind of so magical. And I work online, of course, via Zoom with anybody, anywhere. But I realized in doing these books that I wanted to work with people live in retreat settings. Beautiful stories, beautiful people, beautiful setting, in a place where we can connect like face to face for real. And they can have plenty of time to go write. They can come, and myself and my business partners will be there to help. You can sit with us if you get stuck and you need help getting over a block. We're there. We'll work it out with you, and just allow this to happen, and then have lots of resources available for anything that they might need, whether it's publishing or whatever it is. We have lots and lots of things like illustrations and whatever it might be.
Kristy, that's really amazing work you do, and that's my favorite cup, and I really mean that. Life is short. Do stuff that matters.
Oh, I love that.
So we both do stuff that matters to us, gives us purpose, and it matters to others and encourages their growth. So again, I thank you very much for being in the show, and your links will be in the show notes of the podcast version underneath the video and on the website. And I encourage everybody that feels they have a book in them and can't just go through the birth process by themselves, go hire doula Kristy. And
here for you.
Beautiful baby book. This one is actually now an adult book, but it started as a baby book. It grew up pretty fast. It's really amazing, and thank you so much, and up to next time. This was Healthy Alternatives, your quality of life, and maybe a book is in your future. Bye-bye. Thank you, Kristy.
Thank you, Kristy.
When you combine modern science, ancient wisdom, nature, experience, and love, magic happens. I'm Dr. Christine Sauer, physician, naturopath, coach, human. It feels like magic to my clients when their lives are transformed through the skills combination of natural and human sciences, ancient philosophies, and caring human-to-human interaction. Discover this kind of modern wizardry, and let's prepare powerful healing potions together. Come and enter our wonderful world of wellness.